Hi, everybody. Here we are, Dave and Laura Butler of Work Life Consulting. It's Wednesday, and we're here for our Wednesday netcast. And we will be right back.
Hey there.
We always say each week we're in this together. So we are Dave and Laura Butler, as I said. If you're joining us live, welcome. If you're listening on a replay, welcome. We're happy that you've paid attention to this important topic. We do organizational, individual, team coaching and development to improve communications. And we do anything from customized to working with what you've got. We'll enhance it and work alongside of you. So we do this every week where we choose topics either on our own or we hear from people. What is the buzz going out there? And we were yesterday. We were working on site with a client, and we landed on the fact that this came up a lot. So why don't you lead in with that, Dave?
Well, what happens is, we have the materials and the ideas and the strategies and all the stuff that we developed over the years. And as I started going through the program, somebody there in the group would say, "Oh, we did that before," and then they'd say, "Oh, I got one of those in my office, and I've got that book on my shelf." Well, it suddenly occurred to me, well, you got all the tools. Why don't you use them? We can go in and introduce tools over and over and over again, but what's the point of a tool if you don't use it? Now, maybe it's the wrong tool. Maybe there's no need for the tool, but I think everybody needs help with communication, needs help with or team building. I mean, it's the number one thing everybody rates for every industry, every company in the world. Team building, change, dealing with new stuff. How do I communicate? How do I keep everybody in the loop? How do I get everybody on the same page? Over and over and over again. We're happy to help. But what's
Well, what's happened? Yeah, what's happened is that cycle perpetuates itself. It's over and over and over again. And I think what really brought this idea to the surface yesterday was the introduction of, and some of them have been exposed to this before. Again, another tool is the talking stick.
yeah.
And so the talking stick, for those of you who may not know, Dave has a great story about Ben Franklin and the Iroquois. But it was popularized with Stephen Covey. It was his son's new book, right?
No,
Latest.
it was Steve Covey's last book before he passed away. It's called The Eighth Habit. The 7 habits of highly effective people, 7 habits of this and 7 habits of that. Well, he came out with this last book called The Eighth Habit, and it's all about having a voice and making sure people are heard and speak up, which is what Amy Edmondson talks about. People are afraid to speak up and all that kind of thing. It just keeps us from being able to communicate. The talking stick, which I'll spare you the long story now, someday we'll make a video out of it. But the Indians used it as a way of being able to manage the big council meetings where there were people there were blood feuds, and all kinds of things that would keep them from being able to come to some sort of resolution of their conflict.
Disruption,
Disruption.
to
So
say the least.
now, we're living in such disruptive times. What do we do, and how do we manage that? Getting everybody. So, make it a long story short, you have the stick. Whoever has the stick has the floor, and as you speak, everybody else is supposed to listen from the heart. So it's really a listening stick, is what I call it.
Yeah.
And then
So what? Why?
the next person, everybody gets
Right,
a
and
chance to speak.
everybody is heard. So that's the importance of having it. And what I think came to the surface with this conversation yesterday with these leaders of this organization is taking the time to step back and visit the idea of a variety of tools, but the one that we're talking about right now is the talking stick, led them to realize that they needed more time in doing what they were doing yesterday, which
Yeah,
is brainstorming, imagining the future, becoming innovative.
right.
And so it's an opportunity to work on the business, not in the business.
Right, as the CEO said, I thought that was perfectly timed because that's exactly what we're talking about. So, not that you spend all day working on the business, and obviously you get drawn into the business, but
Right.
it should be, if not every day, fairly regularly that we get together and work on the business. Now, when we work on the business, what do? Well, we've got all these great tools, but where are they? They're on everybody's shelf. DDI and PDI and Myers-Briggs and DISC and change programs and on and on and on. There's so much stuff. Yeah. But they're collecting dust.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they're not being, whether we can spend another session talking about the validity of each of these tools, but the point
that's not
is,
the point.
they're tools. They're tools that people have used, have been introduced to, and to me, it's the question is, what is at the essence of why they're not being used?
Right.
Why are they being put on the shelf?
Right. Why do we forget about them just in the middle when we're in the middle of all these problems that we need help with communicating and help with building teams and help with connecting, and all of a sudden we forget that there's a whole shelf full of stuff. Why? What's the problem? Why have a hammer and nobody uses it? I mean, you're not going to build a house until you go pick up the hammer.
So what's the reason? What do you? I have something that I would add, but is there something that you would add that or mention that
I
causes?
think it's the problem between training and development. I've fought this for 30 years.
Mhm.
Training's wonderful, but training is a one-off. You're going to get the training. Here's the training. I passed. I certified. I'm done. Now, supposedly, I have all that in my head, and I have the information. I go and use it. But that's training. Development is ongoing. It's evolving. It's more theatrical in a way because you have to get out and rehearse. You have to get out there and try it out. You have to make mistakes with it. You're not going to be perfect with it. You're going to grow. You're going to learn.
I think what you just said is maybe one of the answers, which is if I really dive into this XYZ tool, I may not understand it. I may not be perfect at how I deliver it.
I won't be the expert.
All those imposter questions
Right,
that jump in.
It all comes from our educational backgrounds. We all grew up, got to get the A, you got to get an A plus. What's wrong with you? Why are you only a C?
Right.
So
Or I don't know. How about I don't know that I don't know? Isn't that good enough for the start? And what an example to share with those who may report to you.
How about being comfortable with being uncomfortable? It's okay.
Yeah. So what I think that it's exactly what you just mentioned, but also this.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is no time. We don't, and they brought it up yesterday. They said, "Wow, there will be, the aftermath of spending the afternoon together."
Yeah.
Will they'll receive hundreds of emails. I mean, we all know that's if you step aside for a bit, you sort of feel like you're paying the price.
Yeah. Well, I thought what was interesting is we got to towards the end of the meeting, and I guess they had originally scheduled the time to finish our meeting, and then they were going to have their meeting, which is like a business meeting. And you couldn't stop everybody talking and connecting. Everybody's so thirsty for this. It's like you walk into these organizations, it's like people are starved and thirsty for just connection and engagement. So you get in there, it was supposed to be 2 hours, it was 3.5 hours. So of course it went over into their other meeting. And at one point, as we were saying, we're into our other meeting, the CEO looked around and says, "We're having the meeting.
This is our meeting."
What's wrong with this being the meeting? It's not training. This is the meeting. We're rehearsing. We're working this out. We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
We'll get better.
Well, and so what's happening with things like that is that's a perfect example of shifting, of going with what happens, and you practice, it becomes more commonplace.
Right.
So what are the 3 rules of rehearsal, Dave? We have one.
Well, the first is as I said, learn to be uncomfortable. Learn to be comfortable, not uncomfortable.
No, I made it. Let me correct that. Go ahead.
You made a mistake. That's it. I'm done.
I know. So I can learn to be.
Number one is learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. When you're rehearsing, you're supposed to make mistakes. You're supposed to be trying things out. It's going to be uncomfortable. Someday it'll be comfortable. You'll get used to doing it. You'll have the answers. You'll know what you're doing. Learn
There
to
you
be
go.
comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's number
Yes.
one. You take number.
Number two,
Go ahead.
most important. Yes, and no buts.
Right. Stop
And when you
arguing.
hear yourself, when you feel like you're going towards, no but,
Right.
shut
Yeah.
yourself off.
You ever hear the phrase, let's run it up the flagpole and see who salutes? Well, usually what happens is people run stuff up the flagpole and they shoot it full of holes rather than taking a chance to let the flag fly. Let's see what's going to happen here. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? We don't have to argue about it and put it down. It doesn't have to be perfect, but everybody's looking for the perfect answer. It's supposed to be simple and then get it all over with because we're afraid to fail fast. We need to fail fast. Rehearsal is a perfect example of failing fast. You get out on the stage, you're in a rehearsal. The number one thing you want to do is find all the ways that don't work, because what'll be left is the way that it works. That's why you're rehearsing, not rehearsing to be perfect. You're rehearsing to discover what is the right way, the best way to do it.
Yeah, and fail fast means that we don't spend time wallowing in the loss.
Right.
Something didn't go right.
Right.
Okay, great. Next, let's go.
Well, there's an important step. Learn. Fail fast. Learn. Get back on the horse and do it again. And do it again. Do, check, fix. Do, check, fix. Try it out. Try it out.
Set times for rehearsal. So though, and call them rehearsal. It reminds me of a story you've heard me share before, where this high up leader wanted to see her daughter once a month in her school. And so this coach said to her, well, why don't you put down on your calendar meeting with CEO? And I said, I challenge that. Put down on your calendar, visit my daughter's school.
Yeah.
That is equally as important.
That's not business.
Yeah, like that's not important enough. And to me, it's the most important thing.
Absolutely, because when you come back to work, you're going to be more engaged and more settled and more happy, and give more of yourself because you were able to deal with what you needed to do with your family.
And think about your child, how proud and happy they are. So
think about your children as a good example. When you have children and they're learning to play the trumpet or the violin, I mean, oh my God, squeak, squat, squash, squash, squeak, squeak, squash. You know what? Eventually they learn how to play, Red River.
McDonald's.
McDonald's or something. And they feel so proud of themselves. You feel proud of themselves. I noticed yesterday when we did our checkout, we do a thing called a checkout. We do one word checkout. We just go around the room and everybody in the meeting for the afternoon, I mean, they came up with all great things, awesome and feeling great. When they got to me, I said, I'm proud. Yeah. I could see everybody suddenly sat up in their chair like, oh, Dave's proud of us because we did a good job. I mean, can we just be proud of the work that we're doing? Do we have to judge it so quickly?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you communicate? Did you connect? Did you work your way through a couple of problems? I mean, holy cow.
So our script for you as we close out today is set some rehearsal times and let us know how you do.
Please.
And we'll share what we do with rehearsal. Is rehearsal pretty? Not always. That's the best way.
The best way to learn is to do. Practice it. Do it.
So let us know how it goes. If you're joining us on a recording, let us know how your rehearsal strategy pans out. And if we can help you in any way with some of those concepts. And bottom line is learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Thanks for listening.
Let's go rehearse.
Let's go rehearse. And we shall see you next time. As we always love to share these concepts with you. So keep us posted.